big, I'm in your face to talk about the new changes to Alliance Tournaments. We're going to look at the task today and Rev's big head being positive. Was it worth it? Was it a good decision? Well, let's look.
Fancy intro music, yeah! Woohoo!
Alliance tournaments have definitely been a controversial topic. I mean, when they rolled out, a lot of us all called it a DOA mechanic, and I don't think that was incorrect to say. However, a lot of changes got made here this past week that they were telling us were going to happen. Now we can actually look at them. And the purpose of this video is to give you the task to focus on, kind of discuss like the good and the bad, examples, here are all the tasks, go over what you can actually do free to play and what changes I think were a good change and what things I still need to be done, because I don't feel like this was enough. Now, I'm not trying to say that in a negative way, and I would be absolutely lying if I said improvements weren't made. However, there are still some pretty big issues in my opinion, but let's go through some of the things that they did do. Number one, this is a spreadsheet that is available in my Discord. I will also try to put it below. Keep in mind that it's constantly being updated. I've spent the past 3 hours working with Quasel and Jules updating the list because a lot of the tasks are different than they originally were. So a lot have gotten added. Now this list is made to be kind of easy-ish for you to understand. Things in bold are the free to playable 10Ks. So the ones that should be available free to play. You can see we're putting in notes, and at the time of recording this, Jules is actually editing some of my notes. Jules, don't touch my notes. But all that aside, you can see some of the ones, and you're going to find some good and some bad here. There's a bunch of 10Ks. I think we're at 27 10K missions, but if you scroll down, you're going to find things that are new like these right here, where you have defeating hostiles. This is the exact type of event we asked for, by the way. Defeating hostiles to score points. Now here's the positive. A lot of these give out really good amounts of points, whereas some of you were only getting maybe, you can only do like the 80 missions or the 120s. 5,000 Alliance tournament points is pretty good. What's the drawback, you ask? They give you 0 creds, which means that in the background, if I click on the store button, that means none of those things. So they have good payouts for the actual scoring for your alliance, but you're getting nothing for the rewards until the very end. Keep in mind that if your alliance places, depending on where they place, you will get rewards for that placement. But there are now some of these events that are good in terms of credit-wise, but do not give you the actual tournament currency, whereas you can come down to some of the older ones, like say this 2000 one, you're still going to get 165 tournament creds, but you're only going to get 2,000 tournament points to score for it. And if you come all the way down here, these are some of the old ones that people were working with before. And here's some more of the defeat missions. Again, we're trying to organize all this. We're putting all these in manually as we've been finding them. So the big key is a lot have gotten added. So we've seen a lot of change there. We've also seen a report, by the way, or I've reported that the Kashar artifact is missing here. It was here earlier. Now it's gone. So we're also going to be waiting on Scopely to do a lot of updates of like, hey, this problem was found, etc. And if you do have a bug or you've noticed a bug with this system, put it down below. I'd also encourage you to put feedback because as I said in last week's video, clearly they're listening. It's just, we got to push them so they listen more. Do I think this is still a DOA event? I do think they've made obvious changes to make things better. One of the issues I would still say still persists is that the RNG and the need to reroll is awful, meaning it's very difficult to get the ones that you're looking for. So you see I have a particular one highlighted here. This is, in my opinion, the best, easiest, and Jules agrees with me, free to play. If you're level 40 plus and have an NX01, free to play 10K mission. I'm not trying to say it's the only one available, but I believe it's arguably the easiest because if you go down to your NX01, you do your pulls for the day, you're probably going to end up finishing that one out. So that to me is probably the strongest one, but there's also pitfalls that you need to be mindful of, right? Because look, when they announced this was happening, and I appreciate them putting out the blog post, there were a couple things that we were expecting that didn't really come out the way that I anticipated. So let me give you a little bit of example. So as good as that event I just showed you was, you also have this event. If you are level 51 and above, this is something you have to avoid like the plague. Why? Well, it's not feasibly doable. And I feel like this is something that Scope needs to pay attention to. So defeat 1,600 points worth of swarm hostiles, which sounds fine, except these hitting hostile events are based on your ops level. So it's actually incentivizing you to punch up. But there's a lot of hostiles that either one, there is no possibility to punch up to, or two, the mechanic is designed to not allow you to punch up. For example, Zindi hostiles. That's not meant for you to punch up on, but technically you can. Swarms stop at 50. So if you're like me at 53, I would have to literally hit 1,600 hostiles. Literally. That's nuts. That's obviously not doable for the average player. So not only in some of these missions would I then not get tournament credits, hostile grind missions, but then some of them I'm not able to actually do, and they're just taking up cluttered space in my Alliance tournaments. And again, not all this being said is just simply being negative for the sake of being negative. I do think there are good events here and events that we can take advantage of, whether we want to spend or grind. Because the whole point of the feedback was to provide events that we could grind for scoring. They have provided quite a few of those. I think that is good. And that is in conjunction or in addition to the myriad of events that we have that we know that we could do free to play if we do things like prep certain ways, score certain ways, store certain events up. And again, that's the whole purpose of this spreadsheet. Shout out to the group that have been sitting around. I know it's been me, Quasel, Jules, Tarpitude. I know was putting in notes for us and stuff. Shout out to everybody who helps us put this so we can have all the ones. But the big key is having to refresh. The big key is not having Alliance tournament creds for some of these events, but there are still some good ones that you can go after. And again, I would highlight some of those because as a lower level player, this has been made easier in terms of the events to complete. Some of the drawbacks to adding in these new events is there's a whole lot larger of a RNG cycle, can make it more difficult to get the ones that you're looking for, but they should in general be more completable. Another one that may or may not be easy for you to punch up with, depending on where you're at with your Monavine, here's your Texas class sentries. But again, the negative here is it doesn't provide you anything in terms of credits, but it gives you a good Alliance tournament point score, which I know a lot of you are going to want as you're going through the Alliance leaderboard saying, hey, I want to get the big rewards, so my Alliance has to score a lot. There's your credits, there's your different avatars, etc. So that we can get into the store and depending on what currency we're going after, spend those currencies, right? So we've got this currency right here, which is our Alliance tournament credits. And again, there's a lot to go through with this. And this is not meant to be the end all be all video. Remember, we did a video on Alliance tournaments going through the basics, how it works, but the events themselves have been made some improvements. I would encourage everybody here watching this video to provide feedback to Scopely on what they maybe don't like still. A big one for me are some of these events that, even though yes, they did clearly listen to make events that are grindable. And I do believe credit has to be given there. Some either make no sense or simply not doable for the average player or any player. I mean, realistically, who's actually going to go grind, 800 hostiles? It's just not going to happen. I understand there being a legitimate argument to grind, and I'm not saying there shouldn't be, but some of these are pretty high, right? Like, so if you're doing same level as your ops, the expectation for some of these to have 300 hostiles is pretty crazy, but I'd argue even the Borg probes expecting 40 is a bit high. I would cut those numbers in half. I would say 20, 40, 80, 160, 320, maybe at the very, very max, but I would cut those down. That's just me giving feedback based on being a grinder because it's all about timing for me. And if you want me to grind 20 hostiles, that's roughly 10 minutes of my time, generally, maybe 5 minutes if I'm super fast at it. But the average person who's like at their office or at home with the kids, let's just say that's going to take them 10, 20 minutes. 320 is a bit much. Even for the FKRs, 40 is a bit much. I would cut those numbers down. And then the biggest feedback for me is that they should provide some form of Alliance tournament cred, just like the other missions. Like I've got this mission right here that I'm saving for when I can do it. Let me take this off the screen. And you can see this is going to give me a wonderful 4,400 tournament cred payout, as well as the refresh rate, which I actually like that it pays out refresh rates as well. But I get 4,400 of the Alliance tournament credit. Again, allowing me to take advantage of the store. But if I do some of the grind tasks, like we were talking about some of the other ones, well, I don't have that ability, right? This one still has 750 points and the 1,500 points, which are decent scoring metrics, but don't give me any goodies. And I want the goodies, right? Especially the big ones that are like 8,000, like this one, 8,000 gives me goodies. I want the grind aspect of one to do the same thing. That'd be my major feedback, while still trying to give Scopely credit and acknowledge the improvements that have been made. And again, last but not least, just to reiterate, if you need help with this, I'm more than happy to be that guy, as is everybody in my Discord. this is the main chart you're going to want to reference to see what can I complete, what can I go after, and what's free to playable. Now, we've only focused on doing the easy free to playable ones that are 10,000 points, but we can obviously discuss these as well. Almost everything below the 10,000 point one can be done almost without spending. And of course, if you're out there wanting to spend on the game, well, there's plenty of 10,000 point ones that you can spend on and easily finish. Let me know what y'all think down below of the changes. I think that it's a step in the right direction, but we still got a ways to go, right? If it's dead on arrival, what it was originally said, that means it needs surgery. This is a couple of very nice splints and band-aids, but we got to keep it moving in the right direction. Hopefully that ends up being the case. Live long and plunder. Stay safe with our Space Cowboys. Deuces, that's me. Catch you on the next Star Trek Fleet Command video, and hope you enjoy the tools that we work so hard to make.
An even better outro than the intro. For the Empire and glory to your house.